Yo guys, welcome back to another video. The other day I went 4-0 at a locals with the new OP11 Nami leader, and I was using a little bit of an unconventional list, partly just because I didn't have certain cards and certain new cards like the ACOS Secret Rare Luffy, and it was just a locals, nothing crazy. It wasn't a flagship or like a big tournament or anything, but I thought it was interesting enough that I could kind of go over my matchups, talk about what I was thinking with the list, and then also show you guys kind of like what changes I would make and maybe a few things that I would do if not having cards or if like budget wasn't a constraint on everything. But yeah, this is just going to be a casual little video talking about the locals, the matchups, and the list. So let's jump into it and let's get started. Alright, so let's get started. I took the new OP11 Nami leader that just came out over here in Japan, and I honestly I had some ideas for this list. I had seen some people incorporating the 5-cost Momonosuke for the 2-cost Hiyori in the Kikunojo, kind of just being able to heal your life back up. And I thought I'd take it a step further by adding in more WANO cards and stuff. But that was basically it. The whole game plan was kind of like just have some life trashing cards like ACOS Kid and the 6-cost Linlin to try and get our leader effect online more often and to just pressure our opponent down so that we can go for game. And then everything else just kind of revolves around kind of either the WANO package or setting up either offensive or defensive capabilities with our leader. I'll go through the list here and talk about each card. If you don't know the Nami leader effect, it's your turn once per turn. You may activate this effect when a life card leaves any life area. So that's yours or your opponent's. Draw one card if you have 7 or less cards in hand. So really strong. This works with cards like Hiyori. If you play Hiyori and take a life and put something back, it procs that. And then the second effect is Dawn ×1 on opponent's attack once per turn. You may trash one card from your hand. This leader gains plus 2,000 power during this turn. So essentially you can just trash one. As long as you have at least one Dawn on your leader, you can trash one card and then your leader becomes a 7k for the entire turn. So really strong. And I do think there's a ton of potential in this leader. She didn't end up being like as crazy as a lot of us thought she was going to be. Just I think partly because Blue Purple Luffy is so strong, but she has a lot of potential, and with like a few more cards that would really work with the synergy and like kind of give Nami a kind of consistent package to work with. I think she could be a lot stronger in the near future, somewhere down the line. But that's not to say she isn't strong. I do think she's a very strong leader, and like her leader effect is just kind of bonkers at certain times. Let me just run through this deck, and I'll start off by saying that the one-ofs of Vivi, Carrot, and Brûlé were all just like last-minute decisions that I put in, partly because I only had one of each. I have multiple Brûlés, but I only had one Vivi and one cost Carrot at the time, and I just wanted to try them out. And I want to reiterate that like I didn't like just throw the list together. It was like, you know, I thought about it as much as I could, but this was just to kind of like test Nami and like dip my toes into the OP11 waters, and I just ended up going 4-0 and doing really well at the locals that I went to. So I do want to reiterate that this is not, I don't think this is a list that's gonna go like 7-0, 8-0 at a regional or something, so please keep that in mind and please take everything I say with like a grain of salt. But the one really nice thing about this list is if you have most of the cards already, then you're not spending like any money on extra cards for OP11. And if you want a fun list that you can try out immediately at the start of OP11, then this is a good one for you. So Carrot I think is okay. In this deck, we're not really trying to set up any cards from the top of our deck, so it's not as important as you might think. The on opponent's attack effect is really strong, but I would end up just cutting this from the deck. Vivi is really strong at times when, like, say you're going second and on your 4-Dawn turn, you can like get leader effect off and then play Vivi as well, essentially drawing you 3 cards, which can be really strong. And it gives you the opportunity to just counter out of something early on your opponent's 3-Dawn turn if they swing at you. So yeah, really nice synergy there, but I don't know how necessary she feels, so these would be 2 cards I would consider cutting. The Pudding is becoming a card that I think is very essential in this deck, and I think it might be worth running at 3. You could run 2, but 3 seems to be a good number because this is one of the only ways that you can beat Blue Purple Luffy, by kind of setting up your board decently enough and then putting them when they've got their like 8 or 9 card hand and 4 Dawn up and you need to go for lethal and just hope they don't draw into like Gum Giants. It's also very strong against Green Purple Luffy for the same reason, and obviously just generically Pudding is very good, so yeah, that's strong there. The Cracker, this was just like a, you know, we're working with a lot of triggers, and I was thinking like, I basically was just thinking back to my like OP6, like yellow green Yamato days of running like trigger builds and stuff, and Cracker's a really strong card in this deck. It's just not that strong against blue purple Luffy, so that's something you have to like keep in mind for this meta at this moment. Is if it's not strong against blue purple Luffy, it might not be worth running in the deck. Even if it's strong against other leaders, I do think it's pretty strong against 5 life leaders, and it did come up a bit in my locals as well. But this is another card that I don't think is 100% necessary. Speaking of which, this ACOS Katakuri, well, I thought it might be kind of necessary for like the purple ACOS Katakuri or something like ACOS, the green ACOS Kid. This actually just didn't come up at all, and in my early testing I was running him at 4. I took him down to 3 thinking that that might be enough, but as far as top end, I actually don't think this Katakuri is that strong in the deck, and I would rather just run the ACOS Secret Luffy. So that's that. And then this beige is just a 2k. I'm running 10 2ks, I believe. But I think you can run between 10 to 12 2Ks is good in Nami. I like it a lot. Having the counter is really important. I think at the beginning people thought you could just do like just run a ton of counterless and not worry about counter, and just, yeah, I'm going to 7k every turn with a leader effect. I just ditch one card, it doesn't matter. But unfortunately it just doesn't work like that. If your opponent knows how to attack into Nami, they'll know that just doing like the 7 and 9k swings is going to require at least 2 cards out of hand every time, and you end up needing the counter more than you might think. Kikunojo, I think, is a staple in this deck. This is a really strong card, and if you are facing something like blue purple Luffy, you can the effect is online immediately, right? So if you are going second or something and you just turn to Hiyori, plant Kikunojo, draw for leader effect, and if they swing into you, just play out Kikunojo. That's one of the ways you can actually get enough aggression into blue purple Luffy so that you can win. And just generically really strong into a lot of other decks. So really cool that we have another deck that Kikunojo works in. Hiyori, this I think is another staple. Just you know, not only is it a 2k, but it's just you can use it to just proc your leader effect at any time. Really strong. And one of the core ideas that I wanted to do with this list in particular is I wanted something strong to plant into my life at every step of the game, whether it was a 3, 4, or a 5 life leader. So that's why I'm running stuff like Cracker, because we can put him into life and just trash a card to play him out. We can plant any of our WANO stuff. We can plant 0 cost at the end of the game. We can plant some Brûlée there if we want to just get the extra blocker on board. There's so many different approaches you can take for putting things into life with Hiyori, but Hiyori herself is just extremely strong, and I think it's going to be a staple in this deck. Moving on to Momo, the 5-cost Momonosuke, just a really strong card in this deck, and I think the WANO package is something that people sometimes like overlook a little bit, because you might just think you want to, you know, bounce everything and get rid of it in the mid game and then play your top end and in the late game and then just go from there. But I find this more like aggressive approach, while like getting things out of life and then healing back up with Momonosuke and getting a blocker on the board while being as aggressive as possible against the opponent is another approach that I think works strongly with Nami leader. A lot of people run the 2-cost Nojiko and 6-cost Jozu, which I think are totally fine, but I actually didn't have any of those cards. I don't have Nojiko, I don't have Jozu. I thought I had Jozus, I didn't. This was, yeah, like the day before I was trying to build out this deck, because I've been using proxies up until that point and realized I didn't have some of the cards. And you know what, I have all these alt arts for the WANO stuff, so I just thought I'd use that. Nekomamushi, kind of like Cracker, not 100% necessary card, but you know, it just comes out of life. You can plant it there. The being able to attack into active characters is decent, but another card that I would consider like a flex spot. ACOS Kid, yellow ACOS Kid, in my opinion, is a 4 of in this deck. If you are taking any kind of aggressive approach as far as like the life trashing and stuff, I think this card is just so strong. Being able to just, you know, you play him, rest him, trash your opponent's life, and get that draw of leader, plus the cycle is so important. Like at the end of the turn where you can draw one, trash one. Just being an ACOS 9k body is really strong. ACOS Kid was definitely the MVP of the day at my locals, and just helped him win like ACOS Kid was the reason I was able to win my Lucci matchup, and he was basically the reason I was able to win Kobe and Usopp as well, and partly my green purple Luffy matchup as well. 2-cost Zeus. I think this card is really strong. I only had 2 at the time, that's why I'm not running 4, but I could see this at 4 of. The one downside is you can't use his effect if you're at 0 life, which is a little unfortunate and makes like the going for a lethal turn a little bit harder if you're already at 0. But he can put good pressure, and I've done some testing against green purple Luffy where like if they don't have stage out early and they play a Sanji Pudding, you can punish them by just playing a Zeus, getting rid of their Sanji Pudding, and taking your life, and then also activating leader effect. It has won me games before just from getting rid of that first Sanji Pudding. So a very versatile card, but it does have its drawbacks, so that's something to keep in mind. I do think this is probably stronger in a deck like a Nell, but I think just the option of him being there and just being a 2k counter is really strong. This Brûlée, I'm actually considering running it more than just 1. Oddly enough, it just being able to plant it with Yuri is a nice thing, but just the blocker coming out of life can be so clutch sometimes. I do think there's probably other cards that you might run over this, but in this type of list that's like pretty aggressive, having the extra like defensive capability that can just come out of your life is really nice. But yeah, not anything I think is too necessary. 7-cost Mom, I'm split between 7-cost and 6-cost Mom because they're both extremely strong, and if I had to just pick one, I would probably pick 6-cost Mom. But the thing is that the 6-cost Mom gets removed by blue purple Luffy's 9-cost Mom, and that is very unfortunate, and it's going to come up in the matchup. But if you play 7-cost Linlin, you can get around that, and it's an 8k body, so you can swing into leader and get over the 8k Katakuri blockers. So I'm still not 100% sure, but I do think I like 6-cost Mom just because you can play her earlier and force more pressure, whereas like in a lot of games, a lot of situations, your opponent's just gonna be totally fine with giving you an extra life. If they're already gonna win out through like tempo and board state in the late game, your 7-cost Mom doesn't matter as much. But I do think she's still a really strong choice, and just getting around the 9-cost Mom with the 7-cost Mom is something that I do think needs to be like taken into account there. 5-cost Ace, this card won me the game against Kobe, and is extremely powerful. A lot of people don't expect this. He's just so good in certain situations where like, I don't know, I just felt like without the 8-cost secret rare Luffy, I needed some kind of rush in the list, and 5-cost Ace is a card that I'm very familiar with through all my yellow green Yamato days. And yeah, he's really good. Surprisingly was really strong in this deck, because there are some matchups where like you normally want to defend your life pretty early as Nami, and then like kind of like work your way into the late game. But that doesn't mean that Ace isn't strong late game. I don't think it's you're not normally wanting to take life super early and get him out as fast as possible. But the nice thing is, and even if you're running him at 2, is that by the late game when you might need him to like get the extra rush or go for game, you'll have cycled through so much of your deck through leader effect and stuff like ACOS Kid that you're probably gonna have one of the 2 in your hand by then. And yeah, he can just be very clutch. 5-cost Katakuri, another really strong card. I believe in my Usopp match I got him down, and I think I had like a Kikunojo and a 5-cost Kata blocker, and like, yes, even though he's a target that can get bounced or KO'd, like just having the ability to play him on curve at 5 and still get a Dawn under leader is really strong. And like worst case scenario, if if he gets bounced, it's whatever, but like if you need to, you can just block with him the next turn, and he's a 6k, which is really strong, and it's kind of what you need against stuff like green purple Luffy and blue purple Luffy. So I'm actually really liking him. At 3 or 4 is probably the right ratio for me if you're gonna run him. But yeah, a little bit of a standout, really strong card, and it was just nice having another blocker. We don't have our Momonosuke's. 6-cost Linlin, very strong. I guess I've kind of already talked about it, but yeah, just the early pressure you can get there, and it being a 7k is really strong. But again, the one fatal flaw of this card is that it just gets removed by 9-cost Mom. So if you're playing against blue purple Luffy, you're going to lose your board a little bit that way. So that's just something to keep out, keep an eye out for. Amaru, this card was amazing. This card won me the game against green purple Luffy because They had done the math for all of my swings and they had exact counter, but because I had an Amaru in hand, I was able to get 1k over the amount that they had and I won the game. That was a crazy game. It was super close. I was not expecting to win because Nami does struggle a little bit into green purple Luffy, and yeah, it was super clutch. Really awesome. I'm actually considering for this type of list, I actually might run this at 3, so that's something I'm considering. Just being able to rest the blockers, but also just the extra power sometimes when you need it can be so crucial. And then the zero cost event, I think this is just a really strong card in this deck. One, you do end up running a bit of counter list, so it's just nice to have the extra 3k. Plus, a lot of the times when people swing 9k at your leader and you're already 7k, it sucks to have to give them like a 2k 1k. But if you have a card you don't need, like, you know, like another ACOS kid or something that's just like clogging up your hand, you can just use this to get rid of it and then keep your 2k or something else, like a Hiyori that you might need to like survive the next turn or something, in your hand. So that's the list. This is what I ran on the night, and yeah, I had a lot of fun. So real quickly, I'll show you guys some changes that I would make, and then we'll wrap the video up. Alright, so this is a more refined list where I'm gonna run 3 puddings here. Cracker is still like, I'm not really sure, but we're just keeping him in here. This is like if I was trying to keep like the same kind of list and just tweaking it a little bit to get rid of the cards that I felt were unnecessary. I took out the 8 cost Katakuri, running 4 kids, 3 of the 6 cost Linlins, 2 7 moms, and 2 aces. And this is just, and 3 Amaru. So this is kind of just like a more refined, straightforward package that's going to be very aggressive. And we bumped Zeus up to 4, so we're running 12 2k counters, and it's less clunky, I think, and you still do like the same things that you want to do, where you have the WANO package for like mid-game life healing, you have Cracker for the 4-5 life leaders, you have ACOS Kid because I think he's just really crucial in this package, and then you have 3 Amarus to kind of like help you push for game in the mid game if you need the power, or just help you go for lethal by resting a blocker and giving the extra power there. Not too much crazy of a crazy difference, but this is what I would probably do if I wanted to take like essentially the same list but just like change it a little bit. This is what it would be. And I have one more list I want to show you guys. This is if I took kind of like the same idea, right, but I'm just running the 4 ACOS Luffys. We took out Ace, so we're kind of prioritizing Luffy, Kid, and then Linlin. I took out the 7 cost moms too. And then again, like Cracker and Nikashi and like Brule are flex spots. You can run stuff like Vivi. You could even run like a couple red rocks. One thing that I guess I didn't mention well enough at the beginning was like I chose not to do the kind of like removal based build, just because I feel like with this type of game plan it's just too slow, and the time if I'm gonna be using removal events, I kind of want more of like if I'm gonna use the stuff like Nojiko, Jozu, and Red Rock, that's the whole game plan. That's what I'm gonna go for. So I didn't want to like half-ass it where I just like threw in a couple Red Rocks into an aggressive list like this. So I hope that makes sense. I do think other lists like that are very strong, and there's so many different ways to build Nami, but these are just a few of the options that I wanted to present to you guys, and yeah, just give you something that you can cook with. The secret rare Luffy is a little expensive, so that's why I don't have any of him just yet, and I unfortunately didn't open any when I opened some boxes. This just gives you the rush, and I think he can be really strong, and this gives you the bounce option of bouncing something back, including some of your stuff if you want to get it back to your hand as well, like a Hiyori. But yeah, having something like Nojiko and Zeus and Pudding can really make it easier for you to go for lethal. So if you wanted to, maybe just remove like either all of the Crackers or some of the Nekomamushis or even this Brule, and add in like 2 to 4 Nojikos into this list, and I think you'd have like a nice split in the middle of like what I'm trying to go for the aggressive approach, but also having the like somewhat of the bounce if that's something that you want to go for. Alright guys, that's going to be it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was helpful to kind of just, you know, get a glimpse at how the locals went, what I was thinking about with this build. Again, it was a little bit of like a beginner's luck of like OP11 beginner's luck kind of thing, and I think I caught a lot of people off guard. But Nami's really strong. I think there's so much room for this leader, and there's so much more room to grow, and I'm really excited to see like what people end up cooking with. If you're already testing her out over in the West on the sim or whatever, let me know. What kind of list do you like? Do you like this aggressive approach? Are you going for the more like control-y bounce and removal plan? What other top end are you guys using? I don't really love the 9-cost Anji build, so that's why I'm not going with that approach. But yeah, I'm really curious to know like what you guys are cooking with, so let me know. But that's it, so thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.